Welcome to the AI Plus Recruiting Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Rojas, your talent advisor. And today we're going to be talking about the human expertise and intelligent technology. So I'm joined by a special guest, Chloe Ryan. Yes, really excited. Yes, you are a forward-thinking recruiter leader, and you're an advocate. I think what I love about you is you're an advocate for strategic, human-centered talent engagement. And so today we're going to be diving into the modern recruiter, human-centered versus AI-powered recruiting. And so together we're going to explore kind of the four dimensions when we think about modern recruiting, because I think this is a buzzword that's starting to come around a lot. We're going to kind of compare the strengths of a traditional recruiter with the rise of AI-powered recruiting technologies. So this conversation is going to be about how to adapt, how to pivot, and I think really just how to future-proof your recruiting strategy without kind of losing that human touch. So this is an exciting episode, exciting podcast here. We're going to dive deep into it. We want to give you enough information as a talent acquisition community out there that you can have some really practical takeaways from this. You're going to get kind of a debate and, really going to feed off of each other on this. So before we begin, Chloe, can you give us a little insight about yourself before we dive into it?
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, Alex, thank you so much for having me join as a special guest here today. I am super excited about this conversation. So like Alex said, my name is Chloe Ryan, forward thinking in the talent acquisition space. I've been in the space over 13 years, really starting my career really on agency side, moving to RPO, but working with hundreds of different companies. So super excited to bring my expertise here today. And as Alex said, really bring that, my mantra is really about that truly human element, staying in an always evolving world, right? This world is always evolving. We're going to be talking about AI, but I want to bring that truly human element to you today. And like Alex said, just some great banter on this and looking forward to our time here today. So thanks, Alex.
Let's get into it. So the first really segment, the first topic that we really want to cover here is we want to talk about the evolving role of a talent advisor. And so, Chloe, I know you and I just kind of talking, prior to this, from your experience as a recruiting leader, what does it truly mean to be a talent advisor today? Yeah. And how does that, modern recruiting, how does a modern recruiter really truly partner beyond just filling roles and requisitions?
Yeah. So again, starting off, I love that we're starting with this topic, Alex, today, because I think it's so critical for all the recruiters out there, right? As you think about AI, as you start to embrace AI, and the statistics are up there, right? They're saying potentially up to 70% of your day-to-day tasks could be covered eventually by AI. So this first bullet, I really want to think about how do you move to being that trusted talent advisor, right? Yeah. Thinking about the entire employee life cycle. So that includes more than, again, just filling the order, right? That's the engagement. That's about retention. That's about rehiring, right? So you're being that trusted talent advisor to your hiring manager, to HR, to operations, right? So again, it's about being more strategic than maybe you've ever been before, and really leaning in and taking that side when you're working on your recs and your roles and all of those pieces. Again, AI is going to play a critical role. It may not be playing it today. Maybe, your company hasn't invested there yet, but that is the way of the future. And so as you sit in your role today, I want you to be challenged and start to think about, okay, how AI comes in and could potentially take up to 70% of kind of those mundane tasks. Mm-hmm. How do I start to flip my mindset, right, to being more of that strategic, more of that trusted talent advisor, and thinking outside of just that kind of recruiting component and thinking about the full employee life cycle and being a strategic partner to your hiring managers, to HR, and to operations.
Yeah, that's exactly, really where AI really steps in. It's there to really elevate, this term, this talent advisor, and you put the trusted factor into it. So it really elevates it even much more further. And so, when we look at all the different types of digital tools that really track within the full life cycle of engagement. I mean, it's everything from, forecasting what does a success factor look like, and how do you really personalize, outreach. And so when we look at AI powered recruiting, kind of coupled up with what Chloe had just mentioned, saying, hey, as a trusted advisor, what tools does AI provide? I want to give you some tangible, examples here. So when we're talking about AI and the types of platforms that are out there right now, we're looking at the candidate life cycle. I mean, everything that happens from a job seeker when they go to a career site and they visit a career site, they look at job openings, they click, they apply, maybe they get screened by a recruiter, they get a couple of emails, maybe some text, maybe they go to an interview, or maybe even get an offer, decline an offer, whatever it might be. What is happening is that there's a digital footprint that's left behind, and there's a lot of really phenomenal CRM tools, platforms now that are coming out into the marketplace that have been here over the last couple of years, which I think are game changers when you're looking at it. I know Gem is a great one, Radency is a good one, Beamery is also a good one, and of course there's Workday that I think nudges talent when it comes to these things. And what I love about this, Chloe, is that when we're thinking about behavioral AI triggers and predictive analytics, this is really where these AI CRMs are going to be game changers, because
Yep,
we're
absolutely.
used to, like, traditional recruiters. We got a CRM or a database. We come across a candidate. We look at maybe some notes and activity, and then we send out an email and we kind of personalize it, or we templatize it. We have some email templates that are kind of our go-to email templates. Now with this AI digital footprint there, they have a complete understanding of that candidate journey, that job seeker's journey. And so all of a sudden, when you go to drum up an email or a text message, it's going to know really the evolution of that job seeker. So no need to kind of reinvent a message. Every message is going to be very unique and very personalized, and it's
Yeah.
going to be embedded within that outreach. That is absolutely phenomenal, because the job seeker is going to feel targeted. It's going to feel like, hey, the recruiter is really personalizing this message. And to me, those are some of those game changer, technologies there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is. And when you think about what you just talked about, Alex, and what that can change again and where that's going to be embedded, I think it's crazy to think about. And so
Yeah.
going back to my point of, again, thinking about that's the wave of the future. And whether you have it now or you think it's horizons away, right? It's going to move faster than we think. And so I think, again, all those different points, right, where you've been embedded before, you're still going to be there, but it's going to be a different way. And so again, it's going to release this time back to you to really start to push into that trusted talent advisor portion. And so again, I challenge all the recruiters out there to just start thinking about that. And it's small actions daily that can really start to put you in that place. And so, yeah, I mean, it's game changing for sure. I think you said it
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that's great. And I look at it as, AI powered recruiting really leverages real-time data. It does it
Yep.
continuously. And while, the human recruiter really emphasizes, relationship and depth and trust building, which is
Yes,
highly important. So, okay, well,
absolutely.
let's get into the second segment here. And this is all about, strategic
Mhm.
partnership and workforce planning, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to add some
Yeah.
spice into here. So, as business needs really kind of shift, and they're shifting really rapidly, quite frequently, recruiters become really proactive partners, for the company,
Yep.
organizations they work for. And so the workforce strategy really is about operational performance that really has to align with the company's demands and needs.
Absolutely.
So what would you say from a human-centered recruiting
Yep.
perspective, revolving that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this again is it builds off of that trusted talent advisor, Alex, that we just talked
Yeah.
about, and takes it kind of to the next level of, again, as we continue to move forward. I was saying to you as we've been talking, right? It is amazing to me that we are in 2025. And from a workforce planning perspective, most companies aren't getting this right, or don't have cadence around this. Definitely don't even have an AI around that. And I'll let you talk a little about the AI on that piece of it.
Yeah.
But this to me is a critical piece that's missing. And I think it's a critical piece that as a recruiter, you can start to play here, right? And so, like I said, most companies aren't thinking about this. So as AI comes in and you're coming in more strategically versus tactically, I think it allows you to play in that space and just get the conversation started. I think, again, a lot of companies aren't having the conversation around what do we need? Where have we been? Where are we going? And that's outside of just the hiring manager and HR. A lot of times, operations at the highest level, right? They're the ones that are really kind of honed in on what's going to be happening in the business. So tapping their shoulder as well to say, let's get together, let's sit down, let's talk about workforce planning. Because for you as the recruiter, that's going to allow you to be ahead of the game, to be more strategic, to build your candidate pools, right? And go through that process. So again, there's AI that can be involved in that. And Alex, I'll let you speak to a few systems there. But I think, again, this is a great opportunity to get in, to be more strategic, and also to help you out as the recruiter, right? Because it ultimately, at the end of the day, is going to allow you to be more successful.
Yeah, and, you know, one of the things that I really liked, Chloe, was when we kind of went down this path, kind of prepping up for our
Yeah.
podcast. We did talk about the importance of data,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot of times there are, you know, recruiters that just don't have some of these technologies that are out there, and
Mhm.
so it's okay because you can still do a lot with the
Yep.
existing data. You know, I believe Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheets are still king, no matter what, king or
Yeah.
queen.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
yeah, but you know, when we look at, like, you know, hey, AI really becomes more of a what I would say a strategic multiplier, because I think
Yes.
what it does is it really just it really enhances the forecasting when it comes to identifying skill gaps,
Yep.
simulating kind of workforce models that are out there. And so some of the platforms that I've worked with, that I've seen, that I really like, are really phenomenal when it comes to kind of this, you know, looking at your human capital, not only internally, externally within your talent community, but, you know, platforms like Seek Out,
Mhm.
Skyhive, and Talent Neuron. They're great for supply and demand sort of data metrics in there, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to be able to combine your internal labor, understand what's going on internally within your organization, what are your human capital assets, but also you want to be able to look at the external market and
Yep.
some of the data that's out there. And so that's why I would say data is still king. And we actually talked about, you know, one of the exercises that I go through, and I think this is something that should be a best practice for any organization, is you look at your past, current, and future hiring trends. And so what I mean
Yeah.
by that is, if you take a look at your last year's hiring trends, you can kind of see, all right, hey, we hired 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, whatever it might be. But when you look at that data and you extract that data, it's going to basically tell you that you have about 6 to 10 core, what I would consider job labor categories that most companies are typically targeting. And then if you look at you do a timestamp and you say, okay, right now we have 100 openings or 1,000 openings or 5,000 openings within our organization. Again, let me cross-reference those numbers and what
Yeah.
does the data show us? And then you look at the future modeling, right? What are the projections for the upcoming year? And so when you have those three data points, and you can literally just map out really your human capital strategy when it comes to what's the type of talent community, what are the core skill sets that we're going to go after, and then that's when you really kind of bring in the sourcing strategies, and the modeling, workforce planning really kind of comes into play. But you need some of that data. You can do it with AI, of course, but I
Yeah.
think you can get back to the good old fashioned traditional recruiting, but you have to
Yeah.
dive into the data pieces. What would you say to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, I love that you're bringing that AI focus, right? And that there's tools and they're evolving, right? I think, again, you and I, even in the sessions before, it's like there is some great AI tools out here for workforce planning, but they're not perfect, right?
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
and they're ever evolving. And so, again, I challenge the recruiters out there, right, to, again, back to the good old Excel spreadsheet and a
Yeah.
whiteboard, right? You can make an impact there, and especially you can make an impact in an organization that has never done it before, right? If this is the first time, just that every little piece is going to make that difference. And again, as you start to watch those trends, again, even tracking on an Excel spreadsheet, it's going to allow you to be able to be that strategic thinker and to get ahead of the curve. And I love the point also, Alex, you made about the skill sets, right? What are
Mhm.
the six to core skill sets, and how do we build pools around those in
Yeah.
advance, knowing that they're coming. And I think to push us even a little bit farther, Alex, is to say, okay, here's the skill sets that we need today. What are the skill sets we're going to need in the future too?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that as those roles evolve, those, 6 to 10 core, that you're thinking about the skill sets and starting to build pools around what they're going to be needed in the future. So it goes even beyond the workforce planning. It's going to help you from the skill set perspective as well.
Yeah, and it's so hard, because we're always in sort of reactive. It's very difficult as
Yeah,
recruiters to get in that proactive state and get ahead of it. We're always
very
swimming
hard.
swimming against the current, those types of things. But at the same time, I always say, like, if there's a recruiter that's working on a particular position or skill sets that they need to really work on, the first thing I always say is, where's your pipeline and what does it look like? And
Exactly.
what's that tangible number? I should
Yeah.
know I have 10 people in my pipeline or I have 500. And
Yeah.
so really
Yep.
organizations and companies that are very mature when it comes to really segmenting and really coming up with a workforce
Yeah.
strategy, they'll know we have 10,000, 5,000. We have e-marketing campaigns, we have outreach campaigns, we're building
Yeah.
a community behind that. And there's actually, a sort of a process in how you manage and nurture
Yes.
your talent pipelines. So absolutely,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, well, good. Well, let's get into the third segment here, and we're talking really about, resume sort of pushing. Being a resume pusher to a what we call like a strategic
Mhm.
matchmaker. And I loved how you kind of you wanted to really kind of hone in on this a little bit
Yeah.
because really, Chloe, what would you say, what
Yep.
separates a resume forwarding type of recruiter from like
Yep.
a true strategic sort of matchmaker?
Yeah, I think it's just a great question overall. And I think, again, this word kind of matchmaking, Alex, we've used this for a long time,
Yeah.
especially in the recruiting world. But I think now more than ever is the opportunity for our recruiting world to really step up and be able to build that matchmaking experience. And I think because when you look at AI and all the things and components that it's going to come in and do, right, from even being able to build talent pools for you, which we can talk about that in a job matching capacity, right?
Yeah.
To being
Mhm.
able to do basic screens, whether that's via a chat bot or even a chat agent. There's a lot that's going to happen there, right? And so in theory, right, we're in theory as we're building this, right? What's going to happen is those kind of pre-qualified best in class candidates are going to be the ones at your front door, so that you as the recruiter are now going to have this true opportunity to, in theory, kind of look at the best of the best. And we can go in compliance. There's a lot of things that go into this, right? Of like
Mhm.
where are we really at with this? But
Yeah.
if I'm kind of talking futuristic, right, in the sense that in theory, this is where it's going to be. And so you get to really look at the best of us and then make that true match. And really that's going to give you more time to be able to spend with those hiring managers, to be able to spend in potential different departments, understanding culture mixes and all of those things. So that, again, instead of, here, I'm going to pass you on, hiring manager, 4 to 5 resumes that I think are good, right?
Mhm.
Nope,
Yeah.
I'm going to be passing you on 2 very solid candidates that have had
Yeah.
a full vet and be from a cultural standpoint, right? Out of these 2, you should be able to come in with a solid, offer, and a hiring decision should be able to be made. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking that resume versus kind of matchmaker. And again, as recruiters, sometimes we get in that churn and that grind of submittal. And
Mhm.
from a hiring manager perspective, it's like, okay, I'm just getting bombarded in my inbox with a bunch of different resumes. And you and I both know a lot of times a resume doesn't really say much about a person, right? So I think this is going to evolve and AI is going to play a huge component in it. And I think, again, we're right on that cusp. I know you and I kind of talked about this 12 to 18 months thing of where we see it going. But
Yeah.
as a recruiter, I think you can be prepared that it's going to be here and that this allows for you to really hone up your skills on job scoping, making sure you really understand the job scope and feel, understand the culture, understand the department specifically, maybe even understand the different personalities in the department. So I think it's going to really evolve and make a huge difference in our world.
Yeah, because job matching is an art. I mean, it
It is
really
art.
is, and it really depends on where a recruiter is in their, their professional experience, right? The
Yes.
level of maturity, because obviously it depends on, what industry, what skill
Yep.
sets, the technology buzzwords or whatever dynamics that come with it. But this is where really the job matching, really tools that are coming out into the marketplace are at the forefront. And it's kind of controversial. I mean, it is a pretty controversial subject right now when we're talking about job matching, because now you're talking about bias and how do you mitigate through that. But
Yep.
when you look at, the technology that's out there, tools like Faster AI is a pretty phenomenal tool out there, that's doing a lot of good work and really helping recruiters rank and stack applicants or talent out there. JobSync is another one. Match Two Jobs
Yeah.
has come out to the marketplace over the past year, and it's like job matching on steroids.
It's
So
crazy.
it's more than just looking at the resumes. Again,
Yeah.
you want to have a digital footprint on that, on those resumes, and I think that could tell a lot in there. But I guess the key thing here that we have to look at is that you have to mitigate through this process, this
Yep.
bias that's happening right now, because ultimately, I think right now, I think Workday has a litigation lawsuit right
Yeah.
now where they came in the bias just within their product. So that's being scrutinized, and I think that's kind of let everybody in the industry is kind of paused and saying,
Yep.
okay, what's going to happen? Where's this moving? So for some organizations, like some small mid-sized companies, they're going to be able to adapt these tools pretty quickly. But for
Yep.
enterprise organizations, they're going to be under scrutiny a little bit more. They're going to have to do a little bit more due diligence and understanding how to do that. So in the
Yeah.
meantime, going back to the fundamentals and the basics of
Yeah.
being a recruiter, a traditional recruiter, like you said, Chloe, honing in on these job matching skill
Yep.
sets are highly important. So it's
Totally.
great cover points there.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, again, back to your whole point on compliance and bias, I mean, you could be, I'm on webinar after webinar about all of this. And to your point,
Yeah.
it's really up in the air right now. And so I do think, right, we are probably 12 to 18 months out, right? But also AI is moving so fast. You just don't
Yeah.
know on the timing of all of this. And I feel like there's new technology getting launched every day. So I do think it's going to it is going to evolve, and it's going to evolve quickly. So I think, again, if you can kind of focus on these key things that we're talking about, I think it can make a difference.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, we're down here in the home stretch now.
Yes.
So our final segment, I think we both are really like this one, because I think when we first started connecting, this is the first thing we
Yeah.
spoke about, and I think this is why we had some good synergy here.
Yeah.
It's the human voice in an AI world, and
Yeah.
so what we're seeing right now is we're seeing that the candidate volumes are growing, and how are recruiting teams going to really balance
Yeah.
these meaningful conversations that have to happen, human connection,
Yeah.
and do it at a rapid speed and pace. So how
Yeah.
do we do that as human recruiters when
Yeah.
we're competing against AI technology, right?
I love it. And I'm glad that we're like ending on this segment, right? I think
Yeah.
this is such a good one to end on. And honestly, it is the one that you and I connected on kind of meaningfully. And it's something that I'm so passionate about because, just to get the elephant out of the room, right? I think there's a lot of recruiters out there that just there's some fear right now, right?
Yeah.
There's just this fear that somehow AI is going to take it over, and that ultimately maybe there might not be a recruiter role. And I wholeheartedly am against that. I
Yeah.
think that I truly believe, being in the trenches, being in this industry, that human voice is always going to be so critical, no matter which direction AI goes, right? And so what I really want to talk about here is just from a recruiter standpoint, knowing that, again, there's all these statistics out there, could be up to 70%, 80% of the job. But to
Yeah.
me, no matter what, if you look at the recruitment life cycle from start to end, there are just critical points, Alex, within that recruitment life cycle that the human is always going to play, right? And
Absolutely.
to me, a couple of those components, right, is the job matching. We already talked about that true kind of matchmaker.
Hmm.
It's the sell. I truly believe the sell
Yeah.
has to come from the human.
Yeah.
I think the negotiation, the offer, there's some key components there. When you're talking about someone's compensation and benefit package, I mean, there's just a lot there that I think the human is going to play such a critical role. And so as a recruiter, you're going to get to lean into those moments more than what you're getting to do now, because a lot of that back end kind of admin, all of those things, I do truly believe will be taken over by AI at some point. And they'll be at different points for different size companies and people. But I want to reiterate that again, that human voice is going to be so critical. At the end of the day, candidates do want to have a human interaction. That is a true thing. And although they are keeping up with the AI technology, they will keep up with that. But I do think we are such a critical point, and we're always going to play. And as you've kind of listened to this segment, building yourself up to that trusted talent advisor, right, is going to be how it's going to play in the future. And so again, my advice to you, don't be scared, embrace, right? But ask questions. I think that's important too. Ask questions. But lean in, because I think it's and I think it's going to be a great ride. And I'm honestly excited about the future of recruiting, and being in the industry for another 20 to 30 years and see where it goes.
Wow. Yes, exactly. We were joking around because I had said, "Hey, I've been around for 3 decades, and I've been around when we used to wait for the resumes that come into the fax machine, and then the resume would come in, and somebody would jump on the typewriter, type up the resume, hand it off to the account manager, and account manager would jump in the car, drive to the client site, and say, 'Here's your resume.'" And you were like, "I think I can one up you. I remember the time when families used to go to the HR office, right?"
Yeah,
And
exactly. I was saying, I remember the time when the paper application came in, and we filled out paper applications, and there was like we filed those, and
with
like,
clipboard and everything. Oh my
oh yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like, it has come a long way in actually a short period of time. And so I
Yeah.
think not having the fear, right? Embracing it, learning it. There's some really cool things you can do with AI. So
Yeah.
that's my hopefully my takeaway for
Yeah.
everyone today is just
Well,
embrace
yeah,
that piece.
exactly. So let's bring this back up to speed, because the Gen
Yeah.
Zers and Alphas are probably like, "What the heck are you guys talking about?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
you know, so and here's where I think AI is making a big impact when it comes to conversational AI voice technology, because
Yeah.
this is something, it's not robotic technology anymore. It's not like we're calling a help desk or utility company and it's
Mm-mm.
like, please press one. It's not like that anymore.
No.
And conversational AI voice agents, Salesforce has their agent force. They're all in on really
Yes.
this technology. And so it's always been in some other industries, in automotive and real estate and sales and things of that nature, but it's finally making its way into talent acquisition, and it's ripe for talent acquisition
Yeah.
just based on the volume. Too many companies have a surge of applicants that are coming in. I mean, I see there's surge of applicant when you're getting like 10, 20, 30. I know some companies getting 80, 100,000 plus
Oh,
applicants per month.
it's
There's no
insane.
way humanly possible
No.
that you can get to those people. And
No.
how do you still have that human factor? And this is where the AI voice agents really come
Yeah.
into play. Companies like the platforms that are really making headway in the talent acquisition space is Humanly. They've had a great
Yep.
sort of benchmark there. Talent Frequency is another one that manages kind of those initial candidate engagement sort of experiences, and scheduling and things of that nature. And I
Yeah.
think what we're going to see is we're going to see really this space getting enhanced even more. I think that's the other thing that we talked about, was how the candidates have really changed throughout the decades, right? They've
Yes.
adapted, they consume technology as technology changes and more, and forms into a new shape, whatever it is, size, whatever it might be. They adapt pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and we're not too far away where we're all going to be talking to human, centric voice agents that are out there that are very conversational, but they're doing the pre-screening. They're doing the initial heavy,
Yep.
repetitive tasks that a lot of recruiters just don't have time to do anymore. And they
Yeah.
can do it by the hundreds and thousands, which
Yeah.
recruiters can't do anymore. And so that's really where companies are going to have to lean in on
Mhm.
that type of technology. But I think the ultimate thing that has to happen here, and this is the key ingredient to all of this, there has to be an AI handoff to the human. Right. To your
Absolutely.
point, Chloe,
Yeah,
it's so as
is
soon as all that's done, it's got to go back over to the
to
human,
the
as you said.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just to kind of speak a little bit to that, having firsthand experience, Alex, we're testing out some products, some AI on our side too,
Yep.
right? And using that voice agent screener. It's exact scenario you just gave, right?
Yeah.
Voice agent screener to do the pre-screen, not do the full interview, but the pre-screen,
Yeah.
to the point of we're getting thousands of applications a week, right? And what we're seeing in some initial testing is the answer rate, the pickup rate is
Yes.
over 50%, right? Which is what you're getting on a human
Yes.
side. And at the end, we're doing some kind of surveying to see what the experience is, and we're getting high scores. We're, upwards even to 98% satisfaction of that human interacting with the voice agent and feeling comfortable. So it's here and it's
Embrace
happening.
it. Yeah.
And embrace it. And that, to your point, it allows us to get through thousands of applications quicker, and allows you as the recruiter to get to the right ones faster. So
That's right. Yep.
it's here and it's happening.
And I love that, because when you were sharing your data points, they aligned with the data points that I've been seeing, which was roughly about 50% engagement rate. And then those candidates that actually connect with an AI voice assistant, there's actually like a 65-70% screening completion rate behind that. And then there's satisfaction scores that are in the 90%. So that means like your talent community would, wants to hear from somebody. It's better than ghosting, right? And so all they ever hear is either a ghost or, hey, I'll settle, for a Siri, recruiter.
Exactly. They just want to they want to have some acknowledgement. And so I think that is why they're engaged and they're giving the scores, right? Is there's a step, there's a process, there's engagement, and to the point of thousands and thousands, just humanly possible not to get through those. So again, I think we're coming a long way, and it's just going to keep moving.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much. That wraps up today's episode on AI Plus Recruiting Podcast. And a big thank you again, Chloe, Ryan, for really helping us break down, how can recruiters really stay relevant, strategic, and human, while embracing the intelligence and learning how to scale, and really how to embrace AI to the table, to your company. Be an advocate, be a champion, lean forward. But before we end, any parting words that you would like to share with the talent community here?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you, Alex, for having me on, letting me be a special guest on this podcast. Truly honored to spend some time here. I think we really covered some great points today. And so again, my advice to the recruiting community is lean in. Stay in that truly human element, but always keep evolving. So again, I was truly honored to be here today, and again, appreciate you inviting me in, Alex.
Absolutely. And if you're a recruiter, if you're a TA leader or an HR innovator, remember this: the future isn't really about human versus AI. It's about human working with AI together. Thank you. That concludes our podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.